This year's Olympics opening ceremony was one of the most stylish and iconic events I've ever seen. And Peacock's full coverage of the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris is going to be a pivotal test of the streaming platform. We live in a really weird transitionary world right now, halfway between traditional modes of entertainment and the digital future that feels so close and sometimes so far away. Streaming is still relatively new, and live sports is still the domain of broadcast and cable television. But that's quickly changing, and this year feels like a turning point. Peacock specifically has cemented itself as a home for sports. Last year with an exclusive NFL game, and now this year with the Summer Olympics. So let's dive into the story of Peacock, the Olympics, and what it means for the future of sports on streaming platforms. Peacock launched as a service in 2021 with the COVID-delayed Tokyo Summer Olympics. So it's only fitting that now, 3 years later, could be the thing that takes the platform to the next level. So apparently there's a bit of controversy surrounding parts of the ceremony, but I thought it was completely magical. I mean, I've never been to Paris, but this event and the way that it was filmed really made me feel like I was there. I think that's one of the powers of live television, is that feeling that you're looking into a portal to another part of the world. That was very present when I was watching the opening ceremony last night. The entire production design was amazing. There were tons of different dances, songs, just exciting moments. For one, having the Parade of Nations on the Seine River made it feel like a really unique moment, especially because the Seine is in a really important part of Paris, right next to the Eiffel Tower. In fact, this is one of the largest productions on the Seine. In fact, the largest production on the Seine since the days of Louis XV, literally when France was a monarchy before the French Revolution. I think it really shows the amount of preparation that went into this festival, really. For one, France spent $1.5 billion cleaning up the Seine River, and the mayor of Paris even swam in it to prove how clean it was. This was really important because it's had this notorious reputation of being kind of a sewagey river. So now they've undertaken this huge ecological transformation, not only to make it swimmable for the Olympic swimmers who are going to be competing in the river, but also to make the river cleaner for years to come. I think the best word that I can use to describe the ceremony was just iconic. It was something that only France could have done with its really incredibly recognizable landmarks. To put the Olympics right there in the heart of the city really makes it feel like a special occasion. It was such a perfect combination of tastefulness, style, and then also tons of moments that are genuinely super exciting. Like LeBron James being the flag bearer as the boat for the Team USA comes down the river was such an exciting moment. And I think throughout the entire ceremony, there was this feeling of the world coming together. I know we're living in what feels like very dark times, but the Olympics has gone on through some of the darkest moments in our history. From World War I to World War II, even throughout the Cold War, the Olympics is the largest gathering of countries and people from across the world. It's got more participants than countries that are a part of the United Nations. And I think France did a really great job with not only showcasing their history, showing off French fashion from the runway, French music, tasteful, elegant performances that were held throughout the evening. From Celine Dion to the song Imagine, which plays every Olympics. And watching all this live helped me realize that there is something special when you're watching something live that you don't get from a recorded video that you see on YouTube. And I think that's the power of what Peacock is trying to do with the Olympics. They're trying to do something with streaming that I feel like hasn't really been done before, which is show every single event at the game in a really interactive way and really make you feel like you're there participating in the viewing of the Olympics. So let's get into how the Olympics is actually showing up on Peacock, because I feel like it's something really unique. I haven't really been the biggest fan of sports, to be honest. I didn't really grow up watching sports on TV or really watching a lot of live TV in general. And so it's really only been in the past 3 months that I've actually started to tune back into sports. I watched Wimbledon and then I watched Copa America. Those are probably the last two sporting events that I've really made the effort to see the games and the matches live. And Wimbledon was a really cool lead into the Olympics because Carlos Alcaraz, who won Wimbledon, getting to see him with Nadal play on an Olympic match is a really cool experience. You know, I think that's one thing that makes the Olympics so cool, is that it's all of these sports coming together and you get the stars from all of them. So there's tons of different stories all happening at once. So right now it's day 2 of the Olympics and I'm watching the Team USA basketball team. And I think this is just an example of why the Olympics is so fun. It's just something for everybody. And I think no matter which sport you're into, there's something that you'll enjoy. Or even if you're not really a sports person, really no matter like what your interests are, I think you'll find something to enjoy. The way that they're covering it this year is incredibly special. They're introducing this new thing called multi-view, where you can see 4 different sports at once, basically. And you can sort of preview them before maybe committing to one. And the way that it's integrated is actually pretty intuitive and pretty fluid. And it's something that, surprisingly, I haven't seen any other streaming service do. I guess it's kind of a niche thing because you wouldn't necessarily be wanting to watch 4 different things at once, but it really makes sense for the Olympics because there's so many different matches that are going on at once. And it adds to this feeling that this isn't just one sport, this isn't just one World Cup, this isn't just one competition. So they really leaned into the live nature of sports with this and made it something that only streaming could deliver. You know, if you're on a traditional TV channel, there's only one match you can really show at once, right? Or even, you know, if you have multiple different channels that you can, you know, send different matches to, that really still limits you to maybe 3 or 4 events, right? But with this, they're literally streaming every single sport, and you can choose from tons of different options in order to pick the sport that's your favorite. Plus, they're doing tons of commentary, and it's clear that they've just made the Olympics a huge part of the Peacock experience now. And I think it makes a lot of sense for them. It makes Peacock feel way different from the other streaming services because they've been leaning into sports for a little bit now. Last year, they had the first NFL playoff that was on streaming, and a lot of NFL fans actually got upset over this because, you know, in order to watch the game, you had to log into Peacock or create an account. Peacock saw a huge tick in subscribers from that game because there was tons of people who wanted to watch the game and subscribed to Peacock, did a free trial to get it, right? And they're hoping the same thing happens with the Olympics, that tons of people come for the Olympics and, you know, they're enticed by the stars, you know, Simone Biles, Carlos Alcaraz, all these, you know, famous announcers or famous athletes. They want to see these people compete on the biggest stage in the world. But if all you do is come for the Olympics and then leave, that's not good for Peacock. They were recently down subscribers, but overall their trajectory has been pretty impressive. They've steadily grown their viewership. And one of the biggest differences between them and a lot of the other streaming services is that they have a huge percentage of their audience that's watching advertising. And live sports is the perfect place to put a lot of advertising. I think it feels natural, right? When you watch an NFL game, you expect to see a lot of ads. It's even a really essential part of the Super Bowl. And so I think this moment right now, watching the Olympics on streaming, is a very unique thing because we're in a really interesting transitionary period right now. You know, we're still, like, a lot of cable and broadcast television stations are still around, right? And they're still staffed and they're still operating more or less business as usual, right? I think a lot of people thought that most people would have completely cord cut it by now, or that maybe network or cable television would just be something that's forgotten. But that doesn't really seem to be the case. And I think a big part of that is because sports are still a huge part of traditional TV. You know, when you go to a bar and you see a game that's on the television, it's being broadcast like traditional TV. It's not necessarily, usually it's not a streaming service, right? It's not like you have Max up on your bar TVs. It's going to be ABC or it's going to be ESPN. But more and more, we're seeing a lot of these large companies fight over the rights for sports. We saw that recently with Warner Brothers losing the NBA rights and it being a huge fiasco. I think this year, sports rights is a huge deal because one of the things that all these streaming services, right, Max, Netflix, Peacock, Paramount Plus, something that they all want is the ability to stream sports. They're sort of reaching a stage where they're not necessarily going to get many more subscribers, right? Of course, they want to grow, but I think the next unlocking of revenue that's going to happen is actually going to be through advertising. I think that's one of the reasons why Amazon made a huge announcement earlier when they decided that they were just going to flip the switch, and all of a sudden everyone on Amazon Prime Video, the basic tier was going to be shown ads, and if you didn't want to see ads, you'd have to pay $3 extra on top of the Prime subscription that you already have. So they basically just opted everyone into watching ads, and it's because ads are incredibly profitable, right? Especially on Amazon. It makes sense. They're a large marketplace. They want you to be watching a show and then buying something directly from them that you saw based on a movie or something that they put out. And then Netflix just bought the rights to stream WWE, which is a massive deal, literally, in terms of the amount of money. So I think this year and the next year we're going to start to see big changes when it comes to where sports is being shown. And I think as it moves to digital platforms, it's going to be really interesting to see how these platforms allow for different ways of consuming that media. But let's get back to the Olympics. Why is this event in particular such an important moment for Peacock? Well, I think it's because Peacock is still kind of one of the underdogs right now. When you think about the largest players in streaming, it's really Netflix and then YouTube, and then it's maybe Disney Plus, and then everybody else. Disney has a really strong brand, and so they kind of have that going for them. But Max has had a little bit of trouble, I feel, especially with HBO, which is a huge brand, and I feel like they haven't really been able to take full advantage of what that brand has to offer. And then Paramount Plus has been in a bit of trouble recently just because Paramount has been very financially burdened. And so Paramount Plus could have a great future, especially with the Skydance deal, which is going to invest a ton of money into Paramount Plus, the content, and also probably, developments on the actual tech side of streaming. And then there's Peacock, which has kind of been secretly winning in the past few years, it feels. They've consistently been growing, and I feel like they're one of the few to actually sort of create a brand for themselves that's recognizable. When I think Max, other than HBO, I don't really know what Max, is about. But Peacock has made it very clear that they're putting a huge emphasis on sports. NBC has been the home of the Olympics since the 80s. And so this is a really big deal for them to flex their streaming muscles and to say, we're not just, one of these obscure miscellaneous streaming services. They want to be one of those things that you go to when you turn on the TV. They want to be the first app you go to, right? All of these apps want to be the first app that you go to. And so I think this Olympics is going to be a huge help for them. My prediction is that a lot of people are going to be tuning in and talking about the new features and how they're watching shows. And I think that there's such a huge community and culture around sports and competition. It's just something that's really innately human. And I think this Olympics is going to be one of the biggest Olympics we've ever had because it's the first Olympics that's fully on streaming in a massive way. So I think a ton of people are going to subscribe to Peacock if they haven't already in order to watch the Olympics. And then with the amount that they're investing into new shows, Love Island is a reality show that's huge for them right now. It actually beat Netflix recently for having one of the most streamed shows in a week. And so I think a lot of people are going to stick around and see, what else they want to watch on Peacock for a few months. And that's all they really need, because churn is such a massive issue for these streaming services. They just need a significant amount to be okay with keeping on the subscription because they're going to watch something. I think a lot of these platforms are going to start emphasizing time spent on platforms as a metric of success, not just subscribers. Because if you look at YouTube, one of YouTube's greatest strengths is time spent on the platform, right? I know personally, when I go on YouTube, it can be hours sometimes of consumption, right? Or maybe I put on a video before falling asleep, and then that's like an hour-long video that plays while I'm drifting off, right? There's so many moments where I have YouTube. YouTube is my most dominant app. And you can watch it on your phone. It's just super convenient. So yeah, I've been having a ton of fun watching the Olympics. As of this recording, it's the first day after the opening ceremony. So I watched a little bit of tennis. I watched some Carlos Alcaraz and Nadal playing on clay court. I watched the USA versus Canada beach volleyball tournament. That was super fun. It was right in front of the Eiffel Tower, so that was super cool. And then I saw rugby. I saw the Australian team versus the South African team in what was a super emotional and kind of dramatic game. I'd never really seen rugby, and so it was kind of insane how intense it was. When you think about the fact that they don't have any shoulder padding, it's basically just football, but more intense, basically, and honestly kind of cooler at some points. Then watched Team USA play some soccer. You know, I think there's so many different sports that the US is competing in that it's kind of fun just to root for the US. And the US team has a ton of pride, and there's a sense of kind of patriotism that I feel like people are gonna kind of respond to, just because we're living through some crazy times. And I feel like people want something that they can connect with other people around. And I think the Olympics is one of those things. No matter who you are, no matter what sport you're into, the Olympics has something for you. I hope that this Olympics brings people together. And I think Peacock hopes that it's going to bring people to their streaming service and it's going to keep them there. But what do you think? Are you going to watch the Olympics? Are you going to watch it on Peacock? If you have watched on Peacock, what do you think of the new features that they're implementing? And also, what did you think of the opening ceremony? Because I know some people who thought moments of it were controversial, or at least that's what some people seem to be saying online. But I don't know, I really loved it. So let me know what you think. I got some more videos cooked up, so if you want to watch more about the streaming industry, the film industry, everything going on with media right now, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss those. I'm doing weekly uploads. I've been doing them for the past 6 months, and I'm excited to do them for the next 6 months because it's my goal to post one video a week for a whole year. Hope you stick along for the ride, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.